The Foot Locker Road Race of the Month is brought to you by Foot Locker, where it all begins. By Geo Cars and Trucks. And by the Aetna Health Plans. This summer, the Tour has been dominated by Kenyans to the point where in the last 3 races, 9 of the top 10 finishers have come from that East African country. Hi, I'm Tony Revis in Philadelphia for the 18th running of the Philadelphia Distance Run. Joining me is Ed Eyestone, fresh off a trip to Sweden, where he ran in the World Championships Marathon, or darn near ran in the World Championships Marathon.
I ran for about 10 miles there, sure.
But anyway, glad to have you with us.
Good to be here.
Ed, the Kenyans are expected to dominate this race, too. There's a whole bunch of them in town, but there's a couple of them who do stand out.
Once again, we have 10, 15 Kenyans, but there are 2, Joseph Kamau and William Koech, who would have to be considered the favorites. Kamau has said going into this race that he would like to run the fastest time ever on American soil. And he could well do it. He's fit. He's coming off some great races.
Koech told us he's going to be wearing the number 1 as the defending champion, and that's going to pump him up. Now, we found sort of a dry patch this morning. It's been raining all night. It's been arid conditions for weeks, and they want rain, but we don't want them here at the race. With Kamau hoping to set a world best out there today, and yet we've got windy and rainy conditions, how can that possibly affect him psychologically?
I think the weather's the only thing that's going to keep him from breaking the record today. Frankly, we've got some serious headwinds out there. And he said that he's gonna run with the pack, and if no one wants to run hard, he's gonna take it out at 5K and try to go for it, try to push it, and try to break away.
Women's race, very closely matched field, but Kim Jones, who won here in '92, is also coming off a slight disappointment at the World Championships at the Marathon, but she's got her fitness beneath her, and she thinks she's going to have a great race. And the only thing to do on a day like this is run. You're going to get wet regardless if it's sunny outside or not, but boy, watching it's going to be brutal.
We've got a long ride on the press truck today, Tony.
Let's take a look at the race course that lies before us. First couple of miles through Center City, out and back through the downtown streets. Then it's out Ben Franklin Parkway toward the Schuylkill River and Fairmount Park. You go out to the Falls Bridge around 8 miles, turn right back around and retrace those steps and finish on the Parkway heading toward William Penn Statue.
On a good day, it's a fast course, Tony. I'm afraid the rain's going to slow some things down today, but one thing, we do have a tailwind coming back the last 3 miles.
Will tell a lot. You can see the leaves on the trees blowing quite severely, but in downtown, the architecture will create its own canyons of wind, and we won't be able to tell much until they break free and go onto the Parkway around the 3 mile mark.
First 2 miles, we're going through some big buildings, making some sharp turns. You really don't feel that wind. And here we see that pack, and they're going fairly reasonable right here. You can tell it's a large pack still together, and I think already they've resigned themselves to a fairly slow tactical race.
Number 7, Martin Pitayo, who's no stranger to this distance, having won the World Championships last year. Rafael Zepeda, number 24, back on the scene after taking a couple years off with injury right there as well.
I had dinner last night with the Mexicans, and Martin came into this saying he's not super fit, but he's starting his build-up for a December marathon in Japan.
The Philadelphia Distance Run has always been one of the great marker events, not only a great half marathon in itself, but also a great preparation for most of the fall and late fall marathons around the world. We can tell by those course records how fast this course really is. The Joan Samuelson time coming right after her Olympic gold medal in '84, and that has not been challenged and doesn't expect to be today.
And in 1990, Cerrone just set that incredibly fast time of 1 hour 46, but he had great conditions as well.
So it's 2 Mexicans at the front, and the Kenyans sort of drifting in the back. So they've learned over the years how to marshal their energies, not go so haphazardly to the front and press it like they did for so many years. Not that it wasn't successful, but I think they've learned tactics much better over the years.
And Joseph Kamau said before the race that he wasn't going to be worrying about pushing the pace until at least 5K.
More right after this. Stick with us. Welcome back to Center City, Philadelphia for the 18th running of the Philadelphia Distance Run. I'm Tony Revis along with Ed Eyestone. We go back 2 years to the last close men's finish Luquette Schwartzboy trying to get the measure of Keith Brantley.
And this was surprising to me because Keith Brantley has some great wheels for a marathon runner, yet Luquette's just dropped it in another gear here, and it was so long, Keith.
And really, it's the last time we saw Luquette Schwartzboy at the very top of his game. He went to the New York City Marathon as one of the favorites, had a bad day after running this great performance, and we really haven't seen his conditioning since.
You know, Luquette's is training in Utah now, and I'm able to do some training with him, and he's just seemed to have lost some of that fire and some of that intensity, and isn't able to really do those kind of workouts that he needs to do to run world-class times.
As you can tell by the conditions in 95, the rains have slowed the runners down. You can see the puddles in the street. That's going to make these shoes and socks weigh what seems to be a ton by the end of this race. Ed, how does that affect an athlete?
Well, you know, you try not to think about it a whole lot. You just get into the race, get into a groove, and really, I've run in some pretty atrocious conditions, and you kind of just tune that all out and try to get in there and do your best.
But if you do have large puddles, do you have to sort of pay attention to where you're going when normally your eyes would be on the horizon? It's hard to get into a groove.
That's true, and you certainly, in the case where you coming across a puddle that you're going to have to swim across, you know, you'll veer around, and there are some large puddles out there today.
In the white hat on the right of the screen, our defending champion, William Koech. He spoke rather confidently yesterday when we talked to him. He comes off a 2:11 marathon in Toronto in May, and he's prepping for the New York City Marathon, so this will be an important test for him.
And he was an Olympian at 10,000 meters in Barcelona, so you know the guy's got some speed.
That's great, right there.
Our first look at the
Looks
women's
good.
competition. That's Debbie Kilpatrick. She's the national marathon champion from earlier this year.
And there's Elaine Van Blanc with the blue hat. This is a good women's race. We have about 3-4. We have the Yugoslavian and the Russian just behind Elaine. So we have 4 or 5 women. I think Kim is just lurking off her shoulder. So this is great, Tony. 5 women running together. We don't see that often.
No, we don't. And there's also Veronica Kanga on the far outside. Hard to see in the red outfit. She's from Kenya. Here's a look at Elaine Van Blanc, who is a native Philadelphian and went to St. Joseph's University and was on the World Championship team earlier this year.
She's had a good year, you know, finishing 3rd at the Chicago Marathon. Oh, there's one of those puddles we were talking about. These guys need to keep their heads up so they can watch that water.
And that's the problem when you're running in a gang like this, especially for the women. You do not have a clear sight line in front of you, and those puddles come up on you very quickly and kind of take you by surprise. Both Debbie Kilpatrick has a very animated stride for a marathon runner, and you can see how clean the stroke of Kim Jones is.
And Kim's probably running the smarter race right now. She's a little bit outside of that pack so she can watch for those puddles. She's got her eyes on the lead women, and I think she's going to have a good race today.
The women's pack has established itself. We're past the 2-mile mark, and they're all still running very much together. That's Kim Jones in the lead, Debbie Kilpatrick, Susanna Sirik from the former Yugoslavia, Kanga from Kenya, and Pozniakova, she's sort of lurking on the back of that pack. We've got like 5 women right together, and it's a matter of can they stay closely bunched with all those men around them.
Pozniakova perhaps is one of the great talents to watch. In 1983, she was the bronze medalist at the World Cross Country Championships. This indicates a tremendous amount of strength on her part.
She's also 39 years old, but it seems in our sport women can maintain their strength and speed longer than men can. Now that could be a number of reasons as we go back to the men's competition. And Joseph Kamau, now they're on Ben Franklin Parkway heading toward that famous museum and then onto the Schuylkill River. And this is where Kamau said if the pace was not quick enough for him, he would increase the tempo and press the issue, and that seems to be exactly what he's doing.
And we see him establishing himself right now. And he said, you know, I don't want a slow race. I don't want to get into a kicking race. Because here we see what happened at the Krim 10-miler just a few weeks ago, running very well, but he gets mowed down by Thomas Osano, who's faster over 10K.
And this is exactly what Kamau does not feel he has in his arsenal, is the ability to kick to the tape. So even if he starts running at 3 miles here on the Parkway, he's got 10 miles more in front of him, and yet that gives him much more confidence to drive early and try to burn these people off. And with the fitness he's got, he could very well do it.
You know, his speed really isn't that bad. Thomas Osano has some tremendous wheels, but just because he does have that little bit of doubt, and as a result, he's going to be one of these guys who invariably, when the pace is lagging in a race, he's going to be the guy to assert himself and push it.
We'll see if he'll maintain this sort of tempo when we return. Welcome back to the streets of Philadelphia, where not every world-class athlete is taking part in the Philadelphia distance run. Meet David Reed, the #1 ranked amateur welterweight in the country, getting ready for a fight against the world champion, Juan Hernandez, in just a couple of months. We met up with David at the ABC Gym up on 26th Street in North Philadelphia, and what a great athlete he was. He said the farthest he'd ever run, though, was 7 miles. Maybe one day we'll get him out on the PDR course.
We got a little sparring taking place right here in the women's division as well. Still, five ladies running right there together, and Kim Jones is looking smooth at this point.
Kim Jones normally is a come-from-behind athlete because she suffers her whole career from exercise-induced asthma, and she likes to maintain a pace that's just off anaerobic threshold, but it seems like that's not giving her a problem today, and she can push it a little bit more. We don't normally see her leading a pack of women in a race. She comes from behind and beats them at the end.
Only if you have to.
Susanna Sirak from the former Yugoslavia lurking in her shadows, and there's a long way to go in this women's competition. As we said at the top, it's a very well-matched field. And while it might be miserable for us to be doing commentary and being out on that press truck, for the athletes, actually, it's a lovely day to run. Anytime it's got that little chill in the air where we're uncomfortable just sitting around watching, it's a great day to really put all your energy out and not be dissipated by that heat. There's a chance for you to get rid of your heat.
As a runner, I want to be almost shivering on that starting line, and if I can be shivering, and if it's dry, you know you're going to run some fast times. Unfortunately today, we've got the rain.
Now there's Elaine Van Blunk veering off from the pack. Anytime this happens, she wants some water. I've always felt that anytime an athlete gets out of that clump of athletes running in a tight knot, that's a sign of trouble.
Well, particularly when you see the other athletes not going for the water. Hi, honey. I think he was talking to you, Tony.
He? Now Joseph Kamau. That's a 6-mile mark, and he has really picked up that tempo over the second 5K in this race, and he really is not making any bones about what his intentions are. His intentions are to drive these people into the ground and get rid of them as soon as possible, and if they let him go, they're not going to see him again because he's in fabulous condition.
Well, that last mile was in about, I think, 4:35, and you can see how it has affected the pack stringing it along.
John Kagwa, 26-year-old from Kenya, a training partner in Norristown, Pennsylvania, is now in second, but he seems to be laboring, his arms coming across his body. He doesn't have that clean stride and stroke of our leader. And Stephen Niamu, the very thin Kenyan, in third place. And only Martin Patayo of the top 10, a non-Kenyan. He's running alongside, looks like Ibrahim Kanuthia, who's getting ready for his first marathon of a career that includes a 13:08 5,000-meter personal best. So that sort of talent moving up to the marathon distance. Now it's time for this month's Power Bar Road Report. Power Bar, fuel for optimum performance. The third annual Aetna Health Plan Kids Run took place in Eakins Oval the day before the Philadelphia Distance Run. A day all for the kids, distances from 20 meters to 440 yards. And as always, nothing but guileless excitement on the parts of the kids, with petting zoo and the balloon man and the face painters and the jugglers and the clowns.
This is the part of the race that my kids love, you know, a 7-year-old, 4-year-old. We take them to an event like this, and they'll be running, they'll be falling, they'll be going to the balloon man, doing all sorts of wacky stuff like this.
They all get a t-shirt, they all get a finisher's medal, and some of them get to have what will be the time of their lives. 3 years old all the way up to 12. The feeling of accomplishment, something to take home and treasure until it's time to come back and do it again next year. That's this month's Power Bar Road Report, the Aetna Health Plan Kids Run. Nice weather for the kids. The adults have to sort of suffer and create trash on the streets of their own. And now you can see the struggle that's going on for third and fourth place between Mutisha and Nakaraka, and they're all out. It's almost like they're running at a 10K speed, isn't it?
They really are, and again, we're coming home at this point. We've got that wind to our back, and so now we can definitely see the pace picking up, and it's a real struggle, you know, when you're not in the lead, you're fighting for that second or third or fourth position. You really have to bear down at times, and these guys are working for every penny that they potentially will earn.
Because they know, as we take a look at the lead of Joseph Kamau, that they don't have a chance. This guy's not going to die at the end.
Well, yeah, you hate to concede the race at this, with 3 miles left, but they realize that unless Kamau goes down with a stress fracture or a real serious side ache, that they're not going to pull him in. But there's certainly worthwhile struggle for second place.
No, it's almost you run as hard as you can for second place, and then you hope that the fates take care of the leader, and you're sort of delivered to the first position. Now on the Falls Bridge, our women's pack. Kanga, Pozniakova, Sirik. There's Kim Jones with a slight gap back, but we still have 4 women right together at 8 miles, and this is the first time in our 18th running of the PDR that we've had this sort of close competition for women.
This is great to see. We have a better battle here for first place among the women than we do for the men, and we haven't seen that for a long time here.
And we've seen all these women take the lead as well, so it's a good fight. We'll have more of it right after this break. Welcome back to the 18th running of the Philadelphia Distance Run as the main pack hits the Falls Bridge and the turnaround point at 8 miles. Now it's time for this month's Reebok Close-Up, featuring 37-year-old Kim Jones, still at the very peak of her talents at the marathon, running a 2:31, the fastest American time this year, which she did in London in April.
She was a little disappointed with her World Championships performance in Gothenburg, yet she had come down with some food poisoning just prior to the race, and she has a tremendous shot at making the women's team in the Olympic trials come this February in Columbia, South Carolina.
Joseph Kamau, with all his talent and that absolutely magnificent stride, I mean, that's as nice a looking a runner as I've seen in a long period of time. Just natural, not a hitch anywhere. Just even and smooth. One hand going up as high as another. Head straight up. He doesn't look like he's working at all, and it belies all that energy that's being put into that stroke.
He could put on a clinic for perfect distance form right there.
Because you can see Nakaraka, Niamu, and Mutisha, they're struggling. You can see the struggle in their stride. Lazarus, of course, still only 24 years old. But it was interesting. Last year he was 18 years old, and this year he's considered to be 24.
Yeah. Oops. He had a great year last year, taking second in practically all the major events. This year hasn't been as kind to him, though.
Well, but the guy who he was losing to, Benson Masha, has not had a year at all this year. So it's one year to the next is always very much of a different story. Osano was the guy in 93, and now in 95 he's back after having an off year in 94.
And there's our bagpipe player right on the bridge. Every year he's standing there. This year he's sopping wet.
Kanga from Kenya, Pozniakova from the Ukraine, Sirik from the former Yugoslavia, and Kim Jones from Spokane, Washington. It's been this assemblage from almost the very start. Kim Jones did a lot of the work early on, but now it's Kanga. She was 4th at the Falmouth Road Race, 1st at the 94 Newark 20K, and won the New Times Connecticut Classic 10K coming into this race. So she's got some ability and knows how to win. The question is she like the men, afraid of a kick?
It's going to be exciting to see a race actually come down with a 4-woman sprint at the end. I hope they can stay together.
The odds are always that they won't, because somebody's going to feel afraid of letting it come down, so they're going to push it as hard as they can and take their chances farther out. Now they're going past Boathouse Row, where all the great rowing clubs in Philadelphia call home. And Kim Jones looks very well positioned sitting back there, Ed.
She really does. It looks like she's biding her time. Looks like she's in control, and apparently she feels more confident about her finishing sprint than I do.
And we'll bring them on home right after we take this break. Welcome back to the rain-soaked 18th running of the Philadelphia Distance Run. In the best women's race we've seen all year, 4 women passing the 20-kilometer mark, heading toward Ben Franklin Parkway and the tape. And that's Veronica Kanga from Kenya, Susanna Sirit from Yugoslavia, Pozniakova, and now Joseph Kamau, cousin of 5-time world cross-country champion John Ngugi, showing off his family in perfect style. He didn't get the course record, Ed, but just a dominant performance on a tough day.
A brilliant performance by Kamau, and 61:30 on today is a fine time. And here we have Nyamu putting on the move, looking like a sprinter here. He's sitting down, crouched down a little bit, but look at that stride. Look at his length of that stride. Another brilliant move on his part to claim second if he can hold it.
I mean, this guy is very deceptive with that speed because he's got that marathoner sit-down stride, but my God, it's so long. Jimmy Miyundi, almost a breakthrough in 3rd place. Then Naya Karaka, and now Gideon Matisha. He was 4th 2 years ago and 3rd last year, drops a couple of places in 95.
Guys go, they've been duking it out for 15.1.
And that looks like a fight for 9th and 10th.
9th and 10th place. All the way, you can see that even though the money only goes 10 deep, they're fighting all the way.
Here's a look at our scoreboard. Joseph Kamau runs one of the fastest times in the history of the event on a day which was not set up for such fast running.
That's a good time for these conditions, and the impressive fact is that he won by over 29 seconds.
And the 4 women have been glued together ever since the start of the race, are still right in that formation. Sirit, Pozniakova, and remember, Pozniakova is 39 years old, and yet when she was a youngster, she was a sub-4-minute 1,500-meter runner and an 8:33,000 meter runner. So
at 39, will she still have those wheels? I don't know. It's tough to. But here you see, she's moving it.
it's Sirit trying to hold on, but there's that former track runner stride and that gear change, and it's no contest.
Man, it's almost something like you never forget it too. And when she gets within sniffing distance of that finish, she turns back into that old sprinter that she once was, that 1,500-meter runner, and there ain't nobody who's going to catch her coming in.
Now remember, 3:52 is the world record at 1,500 meters. This woman ran 3:56. So she was one of the fastest women over the metric mile we've ever seen, and now she comes and wins the Philadelphia distance run in great style and the best race we've seen by the women all year.
And the battle for second goes to, Sirit came through, and Kim Jones with a good finish, beating Kanga for 4th.
All the women within 7 seconds of one another.
Well, that was fun, Tony. You know, it's not often that we get 4 women within 7 seconds, and here we see it right there. Great race. I'd like to see that every time. And with as many quality women as there are on the circuit, I think we will see that in the future.
The women's competition here at the Philadelphia Distance Run today was absolutely that, the best competition we've seen in 18 years. However, Ed, the performance of the day would have to be Joseph Kamau. Little man, headwinds, and the time he ran, just spectacular.
Joseph Kamau was just a little machine out there clicking away, and when he decided to make his move around 6 miles, there was no one who could hang with him. Frankly, had we had weather like we have now at the finish line for the whole race, I think we would have seen a new record.
You know, one of the things he had advantageously going for him is he didn't have to fly. He only lives 30 minutes outside Philadelphia near Norristown, Pennsylvania, and I think that does make a difference.
Yeah, and he's run well his last 2 races. He's got a 1st place, a 2nd place. He was coming in here with a load of confidence, and really this is his distance, over a half marathon.
Next month we go out to Southern California, where I guarantee there'll be sun and a little bit warmer conditions for the Arturo Barrios Invitational. Till then, for Ed Eyestone, I'm Tony Revis. Thanks for joining us in Philadelphia. We'll see you next month out on the roads. Today's show is brought to you by Geo Cars and Trucks and Aetna Health Plan.